What truth were you never supposed to find out? The dusty cardboard box slipped from my hands, spilling yellowed documents across Grandma Rose's attic floor like scattered secrets. I'd been up here for 3 hours already, sorting through decades of her belongings 2 weeks after the funeral, when a cream-colored envelope caught my eye. My name was written across it in her shaky handwriting, for Sarah Catherine Miller, original copy. My heart stuttered. Original copy of what? I tore it open with trembling fingers, and the words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. Last will and testament. Dated March 15, 2018. The inheritance, all $340,000 of it, was to be split equally between Marcus and me, just like she'd always promised. 50-50. Right down the middle. But that wasn't the will Marcus had shown me after her death 5 months ago. That one, dated March 15, 2023, left everything to him as the more responsible elder child with instructions to help Sarah as he sees fit. I stared at the document in my lap, my hands shaking so violently the paper rustled. This original will was notarized, official, and very clearly stated that upon Grandma Rose's death, her estate would be divided equally between her beloved grandchildren, Marcus James Miller and Sarah Catherine Miller. The same Marcus who had looked me in the eye last December, when I was bald from chemo and drowning in medical bills, and told me Grandma had decided he should handle everything. The same Marcus who'd handed me a check for $3,000 and said it was what Grandma wanted me to give you for now, while I was fighting for my life and couldn't even afford my co-pays. I'd been so grateful. So fucking grateful for those crumbs. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus, "Hey sis. Final headcount for the wedding is 150. Can't wait for you to meet Jennifer's family next weekend. They're flying in from Portland. The wedding. His perfect, fairy tale wedding to Jennifer Walsh, the woman who'd told me just last month that honesty and integrity were the foundations of any good relationship. The woman who'd dumped her ex-fiancé 2 years ago when she found out he'd been hiding debt from her. I screenshot the text and set my phone aside, then photographed every page of the reel with methodical precision. My hands had stopped shaking now. In fact, I felt calmer than I had in months. I kept digging through the box. Bank statements from 2023 showed regular transfers of $5,000 monthly into Marcus's account starting last February, exactly 1 month after Grandma Rose died. The fake will was dated just 2 weeks before her death, when she was heavily medicated and barely lucid. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Jennifer. "Sarah. I know you're still recovering, but I really hope you'll feel up to giving a speech about Marcus at the reception. You know him better than anyone, and your perspective on his character would mean everything to me." His character. I looked around the attic at the scattered evidence of 5 years of lies. 5 years of watching me struggle through cancer treatments, watching me sell my car, watching me move into a studio apartment because I couldn't afford rent, all while he collected money that was rightfully half mine. I typed back, "I'd be honored to speak about Marcus's character, Jennifer. I have so much to say about the real him." Send. The wedding was in 8 days. I spent the next 3 days digging deeper, and what I found made my stomach turn. Hidden in another box were Marcus's old college transcripts, the ones he'd told our parents were lost in a computer crash. Turns out he'd failed out sophomore year, not graduated summa cum laude like he'd claimed. The fancy diploma hanging in his office? I reverse searched the image and found it was a template he'd downloaded and photoshopped. But here's the kicker. Grandma Rose had been paying his rent and credit card bills for 6 years, thinking she was helping her struggling graduate student grandson. Even after he landed his marketing job at Brennan & Associates in 2019, he kept the lie going. Bank statements showed she'd sent him over $80,000 in education support that he'd blown on his BMW and weekend trips to Napa Valley. The same trips he'd post about on Instagram while I was getting infusions every Tuesday. I cross-referenced the bank transfers with my own medical timeline. March 2022, $6,000 to Marcus for textbooks and lab fees, the same week I called him crying because insurance denied my scan. June 2022, $4,500 for his summer research program 3 days after I'd asked to borrow money for groceries because the nausea medication made it impossible to work. Each transaction felt like a knife twisting deeper. My phone rang Wednesday evening. Marcus, of course. "Sarah. How's the house clearing going? Find anything interesting in Grandma's old stuff?" The casual way he asked it made my blood freeze. Like he was fishing to see if I'd discovered anything. Like maybe he knew there were documents up there that could destroy him. "Oh, you know," I said, forcing lightness into my voice. "Just old photo albums and recipe cards. Nothing exciting." Good, good. "Listen, I was thinking about what Grandma would have wanted, and I've decided to give you another $5,000 from the inheritance. You know, for your medical expenses and everything. $5,000. Out of $340,000. That's really generous, Marcus. I mean, we're family, right? I know Grandma wanted me to take care of you. She worried you weren't great with money management, no offense, but she trusted me to make sure you're okay." I bit my tongue so hard I tasted copper. She said that? Well, not in those exact words, but you know how she was. Always practical. She saw how responsible I'd become, with the house and the career and everything. She knew Jennifer and I would need the money for our future kids, building something stable. But I'd never leave my little sister hanging. His little sister. Who'd been cheated out of $170,000 while fighting cancer. "You're the best big brother a girl could ask for," I managed. "Ah, Sarah. You're gonna make me cry. Hey, speaking of which, Jennifer's been working on seating charts all week. She put you at table 4 with our college friends, the fun table, she calls it. Right near the head table so we can see you during the speeches. Perfect. Front row seats for his humiliation." "I can't wait," I said. "I've been working on my speech all week. Really digging into who you are as a person, you know? I want everyone to see the Marcus I know. You're amazing. Hey, wear that blue dress from Mom's birthday. Jennifer loves that one on you. Makes your eyes pop." After I hung up, I sat in my tiny studio apartment and laughed until tears ran down my face. He wanted me to look pretty while I burnt his life to the ground. 5 more days. Thursday morning, I drove to Brennan & Associates with a printed copy of Marcus's real college transcripts tucked in my purse. I told the receptionist I was his sister, dropping off documents he'd forgotten at home. She buzzed me right up. Apparently Marcus talked about his sweet little sister all the time. His office was exactly what I'd expected. Motivational posters, fake diploma prominently displayed, and a photo of him and Jennifer at some charity gala where he was probably pretending to be someone he wasn't. I slipped the transcripts into his desk drawer, buried under some folders where he'd find them eventually. A little time bomb for after the wedding. But as I was leaving, I overheard something that made my blood run cold. Marcus Miller's extension, please. The woman at the elevator was on her phone, tapping her foot impatiently. Hi, this is Detective Rivera with SFPD White Collar Division. We need to schedule a follow-up interview regarding the insurance fraud investigation. Insurance fraud. My knees went weak. I ducked behind a column and listened as she left a message about additional evidence and discrepancies in the submitted documentation. When she hung up, I followed her to the parking garage, memorizing her license plate. I spent the rest of Thursday digging through public records online. Turns out Marcus had filed a disability insurance claim in 2021, citing a severe back injury that prevented him from working. He'd collected $40,000 in benefits over 8 months while posting Instagram photos of himself hiking in Yosemite and playing beach volleyball. The investigation had been reopened last month. Someone had tipped them off. My phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer, emergency. The caterer just called and said Marcus never sent the final payment. $8,000 due by tomorrow or they're canceling. He's in meetings all day and not answering. Do you know if he's having money problems? Money problems. Mr. BMW driving, Napa Valley weekend. Marcus was having money problems. I called Grandma Rose's bank, the one where she'd kept the inheritance money. After 20 minutes of being transferred between departments, I finally reached someone who could help. I'm sorry, Miss Miller, but there seems to be some confusion about the account. The funds were transferred out in December, but there's been unusual activity since then. Several large withdrawals flagged for potential fraud. What kind of withdrawals? I can't give you specific details, but I can tell you that the account holder has been contacted multiple times about overdraft fees. The account is currently frozen pending investigation. Frozen. The inheritance account was frozen. I hung up and immediately called Marcus. Straight to voicemail. Then Jennifer called me, and she was crying. Sarah, I don't know what to do. The venue is threatening to cancel too, something about bounced payments. Marcus keeps saying it's just a banking error, but his credit cards are all maxed out. My dad had to cover the rehearsal dinner last night. What's going on? My heart was racing. This was spinning out of control faster than I'd planned. Part of me felt sick hearing Jennifer cry, she was innocent in all this. But another part of me, the part that remembered sitting in chemo chairs worrying about rent, felt a savage satisfaction. I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding, I lied. You know how banks can be with large transactions. But Sarah, there's something else. A detective called me this morning asking questions about Marcus's finances. About insurance claims and medical documentation. She's coming to the wedding. A detective. At the wedding. She said what? She said she needs to serve him some papers, and Saturday is the only day she can catch him. She knows he'll be there, and apparently he's been avoiding her calls. I stared out my window, my carefully planned revenge suddenly feeling like a runaway train. I'd wanted to expose him, humiliate him, make him pay. But I hadn't counted on the police being there. I hadn't counted on him already being under investigation. The wedding was in 3 days, and Marcus's world was already crumbling. The only question now was whether I'd still get the satisfaction of lighting the match, or if I'd just be adding gasoline to a fire that was already burning him alive. Friday afternoon, I was sitting in my car outside Jennifer's bridal salon when my phone rang. Unknown number. Is this Sarah Miller? Yes? This is Detective Rivera, SFPD. I believe you may have information relevant to an ongoing investigation into your brother Marcus Miller. My mouth went dry. What kind of information? Financial records, family documents, anything that might help us understand the scope of his fraudulent activities. We've been building a case for 8 months, Miss Miller. Your brother has been very busy. 8 months. They've been watching him since before Grandma Rose died. Miss Miller? Are you there? Yes, sorry. What exactly has he done? Insurance fraud, identity theft, elder financial abuse, forgery. We have evidence he's been systematically defrauding multiple institutions and individuals, including your deceased grandmother. We know about the forged will. The world tilted. You know about the will? Your grandmother's attorney contacted us in January. Apparently she'd filed the original with his office for safekeeping, and when he saw the version your brother submitted for probate, he knew something was wrong. The signatures didn't match. Mr. Hendricks. Grandma's lawyer for 30 years. Of course he'd noticed. Miss Miller, I need to ask, have you discovered any additional documentation? Bank records, correspondence, anything that shows a pattern of deception? I thought about the boxes in my apartment. The fake transcripts, the bank statements, the evidence of years of lies. Yes. A lot, actually. I'd like to meet with you before tomorrow. This is time sensitive. We have reason to believe your brother might flee if he realizes how close we are. Flee. My throat tightened. What happens at the wedding tomorrow? We'll be serving him with arrest warrants. Multiple felony charges, Miss Miller. He's looking at 5 to 10 years minimum. I hung up in a daze and walked into the bridal salon. Jennifer was standing on a platform in her wedding dress, a gorgeous ivory creation that probably cost more than my rent for 6 months. She looked like a princess. A princess about to marry a criminal. Sarah. She beamed at me in the mirror. What do you think? Too much bustle? It's beautiful, I whispered. I'm so nervous about tomorrow. Marcus has been acting strange all week, distracted, jumpy. He keeps checking his phone and looking over his shoulder. Last night, I caught him packing a suitcase at 2 a.m. When I asked where he was going, he said nowhere and unpacked everything. A suitcase. He was planning to run. Jennifer, can I ask you something? Of course. If you found out someone you loved had been lying to you about important things, really important things, what would you do? She met my eyes in the mirror, suddenly serious. I'd want to know the truth, no matter how much it hurt. That's why I ended things with David. The lying was worse than the debt, you know? Once someone shows you they can look you in the eye and deceive you. She shuddered. I could never trust again. My phone buzzed. Text from Marcus, change of plans for tomorrow. Let's move the ceremony to 11 a.m. instead of 3 p.m. Venue had a scheduling conflict. No scheduling conflict. He was planning to leave right after the ceremony, before anyone could stop him. I screenshot the text and forwarded it to Detective Rivera with a message. He's planning to run. Wedding moved to 11 a.m. She called me back immediately. We'll be there at 10:30. Miss Miller, I need those documents tonight. Can you meet me at the station? I looked at Jennifer, radiant in her wedding dress, practicing her vows under her breath. I need an hour, I told the detective. 1 hour. Then we're moving. Jennifer caught my eye in the mirror again. Everything okay? You look pale. Everything's perfect, I said. Tomorrow's going to be a day nobody forgets. She laughed. That's what I'm hoping for. If only she knew. I met Detective Rivera at the station at 9 p.m., carrying 2 grocery bags full of evidence. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe mid-30s, with sharp eyes that missed nothing as I spread documents across the conference table. Jesus Christ, she muttered, flipping through the fake transcripts. We knew about the insurance fraud and the will, but this. She held up a bank statement showing Grandma Rose's monthly transfers. This is elder abuse on a massive scale. There's more. I pulled out a folder I'd found that afternoon, buried at the bottom of the last box. Credit cards. He opened 3 in her name after she started showing signs of dementia. Rivera's jaw tightened as she examined the statements. $47,000 in charges. Restaurants, electronics, that BMW down payment. She looked up at me. Your grandmother was being systematically robbed by her own grandson while you were fighting cancer. Hearing it said out loud made something crack inside my chest. How long has he been doing this? Based on what we have now. At least 6 years. But Sarah, there's something else you need to know. She pulled out her own folder. Jennifer Walsh isn't his first fiancée. My blood turned to ice. What? He was engaged in 2020 to a woman named Rebecca Chin. Same pattern, big wedding planned, her family paying for most of it. 2 weeks before the ceremony, she discovered he'd been using her identity to take out loans. $30,000 worth. She pressed charges, but he fled to Portland before we could arrest him. Jennifer doesn't know. No. And there's a third woman, Amanda Rodriguez, from 2018. Similar story, but she didn't press charges. Just wanted him gone. Rivera leaned forward. Sarah, your brother is a serial con artist. These women aren't just girlfriends, they're marks. The room spun. Jennifer, with her trust fund and her family's money. Jennifer, who'd paid for the venue, the flowers, the photographer. Jennifer, who'd mentioned last week that Marcus had asked her to add his name to her investment accounts for after the marriage. We have to warn her. We will. But right now, I need you to understand something. Tomorrow isn't just about exposing him, it's about preventing him from destroying another woman's life. He's done this before, and he'll do it again. My phone buzzed. Text from Marcus, hey, weird question, but did you ever give anyone my work number? Got a strange voicemail from someone claiming to be police. Probably a scam. I showed Rivera the text. She snorted. He's getting desperate. We've been calling him for 3 days. What happens tomorrow, exactly? We arrest him during the ceremony. Public, humiliating, no chance to run. But Sarah. She hesitated. I need to ask. Are you still planning to give that speech? I hadn't told her about my original revenge plan, but she was a detective. She'd probably figured it out. Does it matter now? Honestly? The legal case is solid without it. But if you want him to know that you're the one who brought him down, tomorrow's your chance. I thought about Jennifer in her wedding dress, about the 150 guests flying in from across the country, about Marcus's carefully constructed lies finally crumbling in front of everyone he'd tried to impress. I want to give a speech, I said. Before you arrest him. I want him to know exactly who destroyed his perfect little life. Rivera smiled grimly. Then we'll wait for your signal. I drove home at midnight with Rivera's card in my pocket and a wire in my purse. She wanted to record anything Marcus might say if he got suspicious. My phone had been buzzing nonstop with texts from Jennifer about last-minute wedding details, each message more frantic than the last. Caterer wants payment in cash tomorrow morning. Marcus says his bank account is frozen for security reasons, but that sounds crazy, right? His best man just cancelled. Says he can't make it due to unforeseen circumstances. Who cancels 12 hours before? Sarah, I'm scared something's really wrong. Can you call me? I stared at her messages, my finger hovering over her contact. In 8 hours, her perfect wedding would become a nightmare. In 8 hours, she'd learned that the man she loved was a criminal who'd been planning to rob her blind. Instead of calling, I texted back, everything will be fine. Trust me, tomorrow you'll learn everything you need to know about Marcus. At 2 a.m., I laid out my outfit for the wedding. Not the blue dress Marcus had requested, but a black one. Seemed more appropriate for a funeral. Because that's what tomorrow would be, the death of every lie Marcus Miller had ever told. I woke up at 5 a.m. to 17 missed calls from Jennifer. My hands shook as I listened to her voicemails, each one more panicked than the last. The first few were about vendor payments and missing groomsmen, but then her tone changed completely. Sarah, it's 3 a.m. and Marcus isn't here. His car's gone and he's not answering his phone. I found something in his closet, a passport with a different name on it. Robert Mitchell. Same picture, different name. What the hell is going on? The next message was just crying. The last one, timestamped 4:47 a.m., I called his work emergency line. They said Marcus Miller was terminated 2 weeks ago for falsifying expense reports. Sarah, please call me. I think I'm about to marry a complete stranger. I speed dialed Detective Rivera. She answered on the first ring. He's gone, I said. Jennifer found a fake passport. Shit. We have units at the airport and train station, but if he's using the Mitchell identity, he could already be halfway to Mexico. Papers rustled in the background. Sarah, we need Jennifer to come in immediately. If he has access to her accounts. I'm going to her house now. I threw on clothes and drove through empty streets to Jennifer's Victorian rental in Pacific Heights, the one her parents had paid for, of course. Every light was on, and I could see her pacing past the windows in her silk pajamas. She opened the door before I could knock, mascara streaked down her cheeks. He's gone, isn't he? The wedding, the money, everything, it's all fake. Jennifer, I need to tell you something, but first you have to call your bank. Right now. My bank? Her voice cracked. Sarah, what do you know? While she frantically dialed her financial advisor, I spread Detective Rivera's files across her kitchen table. The fake transcripts, the forged will, the bank statements showing years of theft. When she hung up, her face had gone completely white. $75,000, she whispered. He transferred $75,000 from my investment account yesterday. They said I authorized it, but I never. She sank into a chair, staring at the evidence. Who is he? Really? A con artist. Jennifer, you're not the first. I showed her Rivera's file on Rebecca Chen and Amanda Rodriguez. He's done this before. Multiple times. She picked up Rebecca's photo with trembling hands. She looks like me. Same hair, same style. Her voice was barely audible. We all look like each other. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number, sorry sis. Emergency business trip came up. Tell everyone I'll make it up to them. Take care of Jennifer for me. I showed her the message. She stared at it for a long moment, then started laughing, the kind of broken laughter that sounds like screaming. Take care of Jennifer for me, she repeated. He stole my money and wants you to comfort me. She wiped her eyes, smearing mascara further. Sarah, why are you helping me? You barely know me. That's when I told her everything. The inheritance, the cancer treatments, watching him lie to my face while I was dying. The original will hidden in Grandma Rose's attic, the monthly payments he'd stolen while I sold my car to pay for medications. He watched you fight cancer and kept money that could have saved you? Jennifer's voice turned hard. While asking my family for loan after loan because his trust fund was tied up in legal issues? Your family gave him money? $40,000. My dad wrote him a check last month for investment opportunities. She stood up abruptly. We're getting him back, Sarah. All of us, you, me, Rebecca, Amanda. He doesn't get to just disappear. Detective Rivera arrived 20 minutes later with 2 other officers and a financial crime specialist. Jennifer's house became a command center, phones ringing constantly as they tracked Marcus's movements and froze accounts. Transaction at 6:15 a.m., Rivera announced. Gas station in Daly City, paid with Jennifer's emergency credit card. He's heading south on Highway 1. Toward the airport? I asked. Or the Mexican border. We've got units moving to intercept, but if he ditches the car and switches to the Mitchell identity. Rivera shook her head. Sarah, I need you to try calling him. He might answer for you. I dialed his number, speakerphone activated. It rang 4 times before his familiar voice picked up. Sarah. Thank God. Listen, I can explain everything. Where are you, Marcus? There's been a huge misunderstanding. Some mix-up with my accounts, and I need to straighten it out before the wedding. I'll be back tonight, I promise. Jennifer grabbed the phone. Marcus, it's me. Where's my $75,000? Dead silence. Then, Jennifer, baby, I can explain. It's complicated, but... Explain the fake passport. Explain Rebecca Chen. Explain why my parents' check bounced yesterday. The line went quiet for so long I thought he'd hung up. When he spoke again, his voice had changed completely, cold, calculating. You should have minded your own business, Jennifer. Both of you. Click. Rivera was already coordinating with Highway Patrol when my phone rang again. This time it was a blocked number, and when I answered, the voice that spoke made my blood freeze. It wasn't Marcus. It was Grandma Rose's old neighbor, Mrs. Patterson. Sarah, dear, I'm so sorry to call so early, but there's been a break-in at your grandmother's house. The new owners called me when the alarm went off. Someone smashed the back window and tore the place apart. The police think they were looking for something specific. I met Rivera's eyes across the room. Marcus hadn't just run, he'd gone back for evidence. Evidence that might still be hidden in that house. Evidence that could destroy us all. What could he possibly be looking for? Jennifer asked, but I already knew. My stomach dropped as I remembered the one box I hadn't brought to Detective Rivera, the one still sitting in my apartment with the most damaging evidence. The college records, I whispered. And there were medical documents. Psychiatric evaluations from when he was 17. Rivera's head snapped up. What kind of psychiatric evaluations? Antisocial personality disorder. Court ordered after he got caught embezzling from his high school's charity fundraiser. I'd found them tucked inside an old yearbook, sealed in an envelope marked confidential family court. Grandma Rose had copies because she'd paid for his treatment. Jesus Christ. Rivera was already on her radio. All units, suspect may be heading back to the city. Consider him dangerous and unpredictable. Jennifer stared at me. He was diagnosed as a sociopath at 17 and nobody told me? I don't think anyone knew except Grandma Rose. The records were sealed, expunged when he turned 18. But if the prosecution found them now, it would establish a pattern going back over a decade, Rivera finished. Sarah, where exactly are those documents? My apartment. In a shoebox under my bed. Rivera grabbed her keys. We're going. Now. The drive to my studio took 12 minutes that felt like hours. Rivera had 2 patrol cars following us, and she'd called ahead to have officers posted at my building. But as we pulled up to the curb, I saw my apartment window, the one facing the fire escape, was wide open. He's already here, I breathed. Rivera drew her weapon and spoke into her radio. Suspect possibly on scene. Requesting backup at 847 Valencia Street, apartment 3B. We took the stairs two at a time, Rivera leading with her gun drawn. My apartment door was ajar, hanging off one hinge. Inside looked like a tornado had hit, furniture overturned, paper scattered everywhere, my mattress sliced open with stuffing spilling out. The shoebox was gone. Clear, one of the officers called from my bathroom. Nobody here, but the fire escape windows open. Fresh scratches on the metal, someone climbed down recently. Rivera holstered her weapon and surveyed the destruction. How long ago did Mrs. Patterson call you? 20 minutes, maybe 25. He's fast. And he knew exactly what to look for. She kicked at a pile of my scattered art supplies. Sarah, think. Was there anything else? Any other evidence that could hurt him? I walked through the wreckage of my home, trying to remember what else had been in Grandma Rose's boxes. Then it hit me like a lightning bolt. The safety deposit box key. What safety deposit box? I found it taped under a drawer in Grandma's jewelry box. Bank of America, box number 847. I was going to check it next week, but with the wedding. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my photos until I found the picture I'd taken. Here. I photographed it in case I lost the key. Rivera studied the image. If your grandmother kept the most sensitive documents in a safety deposit box, and Marcus knows about it. My phone rang. Marcus again. Rivera nodded for me to answer, quickly setting up a recording device. Hello, Marcus. You stupid bitch. His voice was pure venom now. You think you're so smart, playing detective with your little evidence boxes. Where are you? Wouldn't you like to know? But here's the thing, Sarah, I have something that belongs to you now. Something that would really embarrass the family if it got out. My blood turned to ice. What are you talking about? Those medical records from your cancer treatment. The ones about your little breakdown in Dr. Peterson's office when you begged him to lie to insurance about your prognosis. Remember that? When you were so desperate for extended disability payments that you asked him to falsify your psychiatric evaluation? The world tilted. I'd never asked Dr. Peterson to falsify anything. I'd had one emotional breakdown during treatment, completely normal, and had been briefly prescribed anti-anxiety medication. But in Marcus's hands, those records could be twisted, manipulated. You're lying. Am I? Bank of America thinks your signature looks very authentic on the safety deposit box access log from this morning. Funny thing about being twins, we always did have similar handwriting. We weren't twins. We weren't even close in age. But if he'd practiced my signature. What do you want, Marcus? Transfer $200,000 to account number 847291563 by 6 p.m. today, or I release everything. Your medical records, some very interesting photos I found in Grandma's box, and a detailed confession about how you've been planning to frame me for months. His laugh was cold. Who do you think people will believe, Sarah? The successful businessman or his mentally unstable little sister with a history of filing fraudulent insurance claims? The line went dead. Rivera was already on her phone with the bank. We need that safety deposit box open now. Emergency court order, suspected theft in progress. But I knew we were too late. Marcus had always been 3 steps ahead, and now he had ammunition to destroy not just me, but any case against him. Jennifer grabbed my hand. He's bluffing. He has to be. I stared out my broken window at the fire escape Marcus had used to steal what was left of my life. No, I said quietly. He's not bluffing. He never bluffs. And for the first time since this all began, I wondered if I was the one who'd been played. The bank manager, Ms. Chen, met us at the Bank of America branch with a court order and 2 security guards. Her hand shook as she led us to the vault. Apparently Marcus had been very persuasive when he'd shown up at opening claiming to be my authorized representative with a forged power of attorney. He knew details about the account that only family would know, she explained, swiping her master key. Said you were too sick from cancer treatments to come yourself. He even had medical documentation. Forged medical documentation. Of course he did. Safety deposit box 847 was completely empty except for a single manila envelope with my name on it. Inside was a handwritten note in Marcus's careful script. Asterisk Sarah, by the time you read this, you'll understand that you never had the upper hand. Grandma Rose didn't just leave documents in this box. She left insurance policies, property deeds, and most importantly, her private journals from 2018 to 2023. Detailed entries about your concerning behavior after the cancer diagnosis. Your paranoia, your accusations against family members, your desperate attempts to get money for treatments that insurance had already covered. She was worried about your mental state, Sarah. Worried enough to document everything. I have 5 years worth of her handwritten concerns about your stability. Sweet dreams. M***. My legs gave out. Detective Rivera caught my arm as I crumpled against the safety deposit box wall. He's lying, Jennifer said fiercely. Your grandmother loved you. She would never write things like that. But I remembered those last months with Grandma Rose, when the medications made her confused and suspicious. Marcus had been visiting her twice a week, always offering to help with her paperwork, always so concerned about her finances. What if he'd been feeding her lies about me? What if he'd convinced her I was unstable, unreliable? What if some of those journal entries were real? Rivera's phone buzzed. She answered with a sharp what, then her face went gray. When? How much? She hung up and turned to us. Marcus just emptied 3 more accounts. Jennifer, he got into your parents' business account somehow. $127,000. Jennifer's face crumpled. That's my dad's entire retirement fund. The restaurant barely breaks even as it is. She sank onto a bench, shaking. He's destroying everyone who tried to help him. My phone rang again. This time the caller ID showed my parents' number. Sarah Elizabeth Miller, what in the hell is going on? Mom's voice was razor-sharp with fury. I just got a call from some detective asking about Marcus and inheritance fraud. And now Jennifer Walsh's father is calling saying Marcus stole their money? Mom, I can explain. A reporter just showed up at our door. A reporter, Sarah. Asking about Marcus's arrest warrant and whether we knew our son was a con artist. Mrs. Henderson saw it from across the street. The whole neighborhood is going to know by tonight. A reporter. Marcus was 3 steps ahead again, controlling the narrative. If he'd tipped off the press, he could spin this story however he wanted. The grieving cancer patient who became paranoid and vindictive, making false accusations against her successful brother. Mom, Marcus forged Grandma Rose's will. He stole my inheritance while I was sick. That's ridiculous. Marcus would never. Sarah, honey, are you taking your medications? You know stress can make you confused. Confused. The same word from Grandma Rose's alleged journals. I had evidence. Documents, bank records. Marcus called us an hour ago, sweetheart. He explained everything. About the safety deposit box, about you finding old papers and misunderstanding what they meant. He's worried sick about you. He said you've been acting paranoid since the treatments ended, seeing conspiracies everywhere. The phone slipped from my numb fingers. Rivera picked it up and identified herself to my mother, but I couldn't hear the conversation over the roaring in my ears. Marcus hadn't just stolen money. He'd stolen my credibility, my relationships, my family's trust. Even now, even with Detective Rivera explaining the charges to my mother, I could hear doubt creeping into Mom's voice. But he seemed so normal when we talked. So concerned about Sarah's mental health. Jennifer grabbed my shoulders. Look at me. Sarah, look at me. I believe you. I know what he did to my family's money. The detective believes you. We have evidence. But what if some of it's true? I whispered. What if Grandma Rose really did think I was losing it? What if Marcus has just enough truth mixed in with the lies to make everyone doubt everything? Rivera finished the call and handed back my phone. Your parents want to see the evidence before they make any statements to the press. That's smart, actually. But Sarah. She hesitated. We need to prepare for the possibility that Marcus has been building his defense for months. Planting seeds, creating documentation, establishing a pattern that makes you look unstable. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Check your email. You have until 6 p.m. The clock is ticking. Your loving brother. The email contained a single attachment, a PDF of a handwritten journal page dated March 3, 2023. Grandma Rose's shaky handwriting, describing a phone call where I'd supposedly asked her for money for experimental treatments in Mexico and become hostile and paranoid when she'd suggested I talk to Marcus about managing my finances better. I'd never asked for money for experimental treatments. I'd never even called her on March 3rd. But the handwriting looked real. Jennifer, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. I pulled up the journal page on my phone, my hands trembling. Does this handwriting look fake to you? She studied the image carefully, zooming in on individual letters. I don't know. It looks old, authentic. But Sarah, even if your grandmother wrote this, that doesn't mean it's true. If Marcus was manipulating her, feeding her lies about you. Detective Rivera leaned over to examine the document. We can have a handwriting expert analyze it, but that takes time. Sarah, did you ever have any conversations with your grandmother about alternative treatments? Only once. I asked if she knew anything about immunotherapy trials because my doctor had mentioned them. But I never asked for money, and I definitely never got hostile. I scrolled through my phone frantically. Wait. March 3rd, 2023. I can prove I didn't call her that day. I pulled up my call history from last year, scrolling back month by month until I found March. Look. March 3rd was a Friday. I was at treatment all day, chemo session followed by a consultation with Dr. Rodriguez about side effects. I have the appointment records, the check-in times. There's no way I called Grandma Rose that evening. Rivera's eyes sharpened. But Marcus would have known about your treatment schedule. He knew everything. I texted the family group chat every week with my appointment times so they'd know when I was unreachable. The realization hit me like a physical blow. He used my treatment schedule against me. Called Grandma Rose pretending to be me, or told her stories about conversations that never happened because he knew I couldn't defend myself. My phone rang. This time it was my father. Sarah, your mother is very upset. We don't know what to believe anymore. Dad's voice was tired, confused. Marcus sent us copies of medical records showing you were prescribed psychiatric medication during treatment. And bank statements showing you withdrew large amounts of cash throughout 2022. What were you spending that money on? Groceries, Dad. Rent. Basic survival because I could barely work. But even as I said it, doubt crept in. Had I withdrawn more cash than usual? Pain medications made those months fuzzy, a blur of appointments and exhaustion. Marcus says you were spending it on alternative healers, crystals, some woman in Chinatown who claimed she could cure cancer with herbs. He has receipts, Sarah. Receipts. For purchases I'd never made, for a woman I'd never met. Dad, he's lying. He's been stealing from all of us for years. But honey, why would he steal money and then give you thousands of dollars during treatment? That doesn't make sense. Because $3,000 bought him cover for stealing $170,000. Because small kindnesses made him look generous while he committed massive theft. But I could hear in Dad's voice that he was already halfway convinced by Marcus's version of events. I need you both to come to the police station, I said. Detective Rivera has documents, bank records, evidence going back years. We'll come tomorrow, after we talk to Marcus. He's flying back tonight to straighten this whole mess out. Flying back. My blood froze. He's coming back? Of course he's coming back. Sarah, he's not a criminal. He's your brother, and he's worried sick about you. The line went dead, and I stared at Detective Rivera in panic. He's not running. He's coming back because he thinks he's won. Rivera was already on her radio. All units, suspect is returning to San Francisco. Cancel the APB and set up surveillance at all family addresses. She turned to Jennifer and me. If he's coming back, it's because he believes his false evidence is strong enough to discredit everything we have. Jennifer's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and went pale. It's Rebecca Chen. The woman from Portland. She says Marcus contacted her this morning, told her I was trying to frame him the same way she did, and that he has proof both of us are lying. He's building an army of character witnesses, Rivera muttered. Convincing everyone that his victims are the real criminals. My phone lit up with notifications. Text messages, Facebook posts, emails from extended family members and old friends. Word was spreading fast, and Marcus had gotten to them first. Cousin Lisa, Sarah, I'm so sorry you're going through this mental health crisis. Marcus explained everything. Do you need help finding a good therapist? High school friend Amy, saw the news about your brother. Can't believe you tried to destroy him like this. Hope you get the help you need. Even my former coworker Janet, Marcus called me, said you've been struggling since chemo ended. Making up stories about family members. Is there anything I can do? He'd called everyone. Everyone I'd ever cared about, everyone who might support me. Planting seeds of doubt, painting himself as the concerned brother dealing with his mentally ill sister. This is psychological warfare, I whispered, scrolling through message after message questioning my sanity, my motives, my version of reality. Rivera's phone rang. She listened grimly, then hung up. That was the district attorney's office. They're concerned about moving forward with charges. Too many conflicting narratives, questions about witness credibility. What does that mean? It means Marcus's strategy is working. If he can create enough doubt about your mental state, make it look like a family dispute rather than criminal fraud. Rivera rubbed her temples. Sarah, we need something concrete. Something he can't explain away or blame on your supposed paranoia. I closed my eyes, thinking through everything I'd found in Grandma Rose's attic. The wills, the bank statements, the college transcripts. All of it could be dismissed as misunderstandings, sibling rivalry, the confused accusations of a woman traumatized by cancer treatment. Then I remembered the one thing Marcus didn't know I'd found. The one piece of evidence I'd hidden even from Detective Rivera. There's something else, I said quietly. Something I didn't tell you before. The safety deposit box wasn't the only one. Hidden in the very last folder I'd taken from Grandma Rose's house, the one I'd shoved under my couch and forgotten about until now, was a second key. Smaller, different bank. Wells Fargo, box number 1247. I found it taped inside an old cookbook, I told Rivera as we raced back to my destroyed apartment. The joy of cooking, of all things. She'd written insurance policy in pencil on the page about apple pie. Rivera's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. Why didn't you mention this before? Because I thought it was literally an insurance policy. Life insurance, maybe homeowner's coverage. I was going to deal with it after the wedding. I climbed through the debris of my living room, searching for the folder. But what if she meant it differently? What if it was insurance against Marcus? I found it wedged behind my overturned desk, a manila folder labeled recipes in Grandma Rose's careful handwriting. Inside were photocopies of bank deposit slips going back to 2019, all showing cash deposits into an account I didn't recognize. Small amounts, $200 here, $500 there, but consistent. Every month for 4 years. And tucked between the pages, the second key. Wells Fargo is 3 blocks from Grandma's house, I said, studying the deposits. She walked there every Tuesday for her grocery shopping. Rivera grabbed her radio. We need another emergency court order. Wells Fargo, Market Street branch. Safety deposit box 1247. While we waited for the paperwork, I studied the deposit slips more carefully. The dates corresponded with Marcus's visits to Grandma Rose. Every time he'd come over to help with her finances, she'd made a cash deposit the next day. She was documenting something, I realized. Every lie he told her, every story that didn't add up, she was keeping evidence. Jennifer had been quiet during the drive, but now she spoke up. My grandmother did something similar during the Depression. Never trusted banks completely, but she'd keep small accounts everywhere as backup. Called it mad money in case she needed to disappear. My phone buzzed with another text from Marcus, T-3 hours, sister. Hope you're getting your affairs in order. By the way, Mom and Dad are having dinner with Jennifer's parents tonight. Comparing notes about your recent behavior. Such a shame when mental illness tears families apart. The Wells Fargo manager, Mr. Rodriguez, met us at 4:30 p.m. with a nervous energy that suggested he'd rather be anywhere else. Ms. Miller, I have to ask, are you certain you're authorized to access this box? We've had some unusual activity today regarding your family's accounts. What kind of unusual activity? Your brother called asking about this specific box number. Said you'd been making threats about hidden documents, and he was concerned for your mental health. He wanted to know if we'd seen you. Marcus knew about the second box. Somehow, he'd figured it out. Did you tell him anything? Of course not. Bank privacy policies are very strict. But Ms. Miller, he seemed to know details about the account that concerned our security team. We descended into the vault with 2 security guards flanking us. Box 1247 was smaller than the other one, and when Mr. Rodriguez opened it with both keys, I held my breath. Inside were 3 items, a digital recorder, a USB drive, and a handwritten note dated January 15, 2023, exactly 1 week before Grandma Rose died. The note was in her handwriting, but stronger and clearer than those alleged journal entries Marcus had sent. Asterisk if you're reading this, I'm gone and Marcus has probably tried to steal everything. I've been recording our conversations since 2019. The USB has copies of every document he's forged, every story he's told, every lie he's convinced me to believe. I wasn't as foolish as he thought. I just needed time to gather evidence. The truth is all here, Sarah. Make him pay for what he did to our family. Asterisk. My hands shook as I picked up the digital recorder. It was the kind journalists used, professional quality with timestamps. The USB drive was labeled Marcus Evidence 2019 to 2023 in Grandma Rose's careful script. She was investigating him, I whispered. For 4 years, she was building a case. Rivera's radio crackled. Detective Rivera, suspect's vehicle spotted heading toward Wells Fargo, Market Street. ETA approximately 10 minutes. Marcus was coming. He'd figured out we were here, and he was making his final play. We need to leave. Now, Rivera said, but I was already pocketing the recorder and USB drive. No, I said, surprising myself with how calm I sounded. Let him come. It's time Marcus learned what it feels like to walk into a trap. For the first time in this entire nightmare, I was the one who was 3 steps ahead. The Wells Fargo security guard's radio crackled at 4:47 p.m., white BMW entering parking garage. California plates 8X7 TMR2. Marcus's car. The same BMW he bought with Grandma Rose's money while I was selling plasma to afford groceries. Ms. Miller, we need to evacuate you through the rear exit, Mr. Rodriguez said, his face pale with sweat. Bank policy doesn't allow for confrontations in the vault area. But Detective Rivera held up her hand, listening to something through her earpiece. Units are in position. Sarah, this is your call. We can arrest him the moment he enters the building, or we let him come down here and see what Grandma Rose really thought of him, I finished. I plugged the USB drive into my phone and scrolled through the files while we waited. Dozens of audio recordings labeled by date, scanned documents, even photographs. The most recent folder was titled Final Evidence, January 2023, and contained a video file. I clicked play and Grandma Rose's face filled my screen, sitting in her favorite armchair with a blanket draped over her legs. The timestamp showed January 10th, 2023, 6 days before she wrote the note we just found. My name is Rose Catherine Miller, her voice said clearly, no trace of the confusion Marcus claimed had consumed her final months. I am of sound mind and body, though my grandson Marcus believes otherwise. For the past 4 years, I have been documenting his systematic theft from my accounts and his elaborate lies to the family. I turned up the volume as footsteps echoed in the bank lobby above us. Marcus told Sarah that I changed my will because I thought she was irresponsible with money. This is false. Marcus forged my signature on multiple documents after convincing me to take pain medication that made me drowsy. He would bring papers for me to sign, claiming they were medical forms or insurance updates. The elevator dinged. He was coming down. I wanted on record that Sarah Catherine Miller is to inherit exactly half of my estate, as outlined in my original will dated March 15, 2018. Any document suggesting otherwise is fraudulent. Marcus has stolen approximately $127,000 from my accounts over the past 3 years, including money I specifically set aside for Sarah's medical expenses. Detective Rivera positioned herself behind a pillar, hand on her weapon. Sarah, keep playing that video. I want him to hear every word. The vault door opened and Marcus walked in, still wearing the expensive suit he'd planned to get married in 12 hours ago. But his hair was disheveled, his tie crooked, and there was a wild look in his eyes I'd never seen before. Well. The gang's all here. He spotted the USB drive in my hand and his expression darkened. You found Grandma's little insurance policy. Clever girl. You knew about this the whole time. Of course I knew. Who do you think helped her set up that safety deposit box? Marcus laughed, but it sounded hollow in the concrete vault. Rose Miller might have been 93, but she was sharp as a tack right until the end. Too sharp for her own good. On my phone screen, Grandma Rose was still talking. Marcus has also been lying about his education, his employment, and his relationship history. I have documented evidence of his criminal behavior dating back to high school. Marcus lunged for my phone, but Detective Rivera stepped out from behind the pillar with her weapon drawn. Marcus James Miller, you're under arrest for elder financial abuse, wire fraud, identity theft, and forgery. You can't prove any of this, he snarled, but his eyes were fixed on my phone where his dead grandmother was methodically destroying every lie he'd built his life on. Actually, I said, holding up the digital recorder I'd found in the box, she recorded your confession. I pressed play on the digital recorder, and Marcus's voice filled the vault, younger, cockier, recorded sometime in 2022 based on the timestamp. Come on, Grandma. Sarah's not getting better. The doctors told me privately that her prognosis isn't good, and you know how she gets when she's stressed. Remember when she had that breakdown in high school? The spending sprees, the paranoid accusations? I'd never had spending sprees or made paranoid accusations in high school. But Marcus's recorded voice continued with disturbing confidence. If you leave her that much money all at once, she'll blow through it in 6 months on fake cures and crazy treatments. I'm just asking you to let me manage her portion, give it to her gradually. It's what's best for everyone. Grandma Rose's voice responded, shakier than in the recent video but still sharp. Marcus, I've been handling money since before you were born. Sarah is not irresponsible. But she asked you for $10,000 last week for some experimental clinic in Tijuana. You told me yourself. My blood turned to ice. I'd never asked for money for any clinic, but I could hear Grandma Rose's long pause on the recording. Yes, she mentioned looking into options. See? And when you questioned her about it, she got angry and hung up on you, right? Another pause. She seemed upset. Marcus's voice turned gentle, persuasive. I'm not saying she's a bad person, Grandma. I'm saying the cancer treatments have affected her judgment. The doctors call it chemo brain. It makes people paranoid, impulsive. I just want to protect her from herself until she's thinking clearly again. The recording clicked off, and Marcus stared at me with something that might have been pity if I didn't know better. You see, Sarah? I was protecting you. Even when I had to bend the truth a little, it was for your own good. Bend the truth? Jennifer's voice cracked. You stole $170,000 from your dying sister. I managed it for her. There's a difference. Marcus straightened his tie, some of his old confidence returning. And frankly, look how paranoid she's become. Look at this elaborate conspiracy theory she's constructed, turning the whole family against me. Doesn't this prove I was right about her mental state? Detective Rivera stepped closer, handcuffs ready. You had the right to remain silent. Wait. Marcus held up his hand. Detective, before you arrest me, you should know that Sarah has been withholding evidence. Show them the other recording, Sarah. The one from January 20th. My stomach dropped. There was no recording from January 20th in the USB files. I'd checked every folder. I don't know what you're talking about. The one where Grandma Rose admits she was wrong about the money. Where she says she's glad I took control because you'd been calling her in the middle of the night, rambling about conspiracy theories. Marcus's smile was cold. It's on the recorder you're holding. Track 17. With shaking hands, I scrolled through the digital recorder's files. There was a track 17, dated January 20th, 2023. 2 days before Grandma Rose died. Play it, Marcus said. I insist. I looked at Detective Rivera, who nodded grimly. I pressed play. Grandma Rose's voice was barely a whisper. Marcus, I'm scared. Sarah called again last night, said things about you stealing money. She's not making sense anymore. Maybe you were right about managing the inheritance. My heart shattered. But then I noticed something. The timestamp showed 3:47 a.m., but there was no background noise, no sounds of medical equipment or the nursing staff that had been caring for Grandma Rose around the clock during her final week. This is fake, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. Grandma Rose wasn't even coherent on January 20th. She'd been sedated since the 18th. Marcus's smile faltered slightly. Grief affects memory, Sarah. You're confused about the timeline. But Detective Rivera was already on her phone with the hospice facility. After a brief conversation, she hung up and looked directly at Marcus. Rose Miller was unconscious from January 18th until her death on January 22nd. Medical records show she was on continuous sedation for pain management. She couldn't have made this recording. The vault fell silent except for the hum of fluorescent lights. Marcus's carefully constructed house of lies was crumbling in real time, and I could see him calculating his next move. You know what, detective? I'd like to call my lawyer now. The lawyer Marcus called was David Stern, the same high-powered criminal defense attorney who'd represented tech executives in embezzlement cases. He arrived at the police station looking like he charged $1,000 an hour, which he probably did. My client won't be making any further statements, Stern announced, settling into the interrogation room like he owned it. And frankly, Detective Rivera, this case is built on the emotional accusations of a woman who's admitted to psychiatric treatment during a traumatic medical crisis. I watched through the one-way glass as Marcus whispered urgently in his lawyer's ear. Even in handcuffs, he looked confident, like this was all going according to some master plan I couldn't see yet. He's been planning this defense for months, I murmured to Rivera. Every conversation with my parents, every fake journal entry, every person he called to plant seeds of doubt. Rivera's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and her face went pale. The DA's office wants to meet. Now. 20 minutes later, we sat across from District Attorney Patricia Walsh, no relation to Jennifer, despite the name, in her corner office overlooking the courthouse. She'd been reviewing our evidence for an hour, and her expression wasn't encouraging. The financial crimes are solid, she said finally. Bank records don't lie. But Ms. Miller, your brother's attorney has already filed a motion claiming prosecutorial misconduct based on evidence obtained during a mental health crisis. What does that mean? It means they're arguing you weren't competent to consent to helping this investigation. The psychiatric medication during your cancer treatment, the emotional distress of your grandmother's death, the financial desperation, Stern is painting a picture of a vulnerable person being manipulated by law enforcement. Jennifer, who'd been silent through most of the meeting, suddenly spoke up. What about the other victims? Rebecca Chan, Amanda Rodriguez? I can't be the only one he's stolen from recently. DA Walsh flipped through another file. Ms. Chen is willing to testify, but her case was in Portland and the statute of limitations is questionable. Ms. Rodriguez moved to Europe and won't return for a trial. And Ms. Walsh? She looked directly at Jennifer. Your financial losses occurred after you gave Mr. Miller access to your accounts voluntarily. His lawyer will argue it was a gift from his fiancée, not theft. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Sarah, we've been talking to Marcus's lawyer. He says you've been struggling more than we realized and might benefit from inpatient treatment. We're worried about you, honey. Inpatient treatment. Marcus was still playing chess while I was stuck playing checkers. There's something else, DA Walsh continued. Mr. Miller's attorney has provided evidence that you accessed his work computer illegally and planted false documents in his desk. The transcripts you claim prove he lied about his education? They're calling it a malicious hoax designed to frame him. The fake college transcripts. I'd been so proud of finding them, so certain they proved Marcus's pattern of deception. But if Stern could argue I'd planted them. Detective Rivera, did you authorize Ms. Miller to enter Brennan and Associates? Rivera shifted uncomfortably. No, ma'am. That was unofficial. So we have evidence obtained through breaking and entering, provided by a witness whose mental state is being questioned, in a case where the defendant's lawyer is claiming he's the victim of a vindictive family member. Walsh closed the file with a sharp snap. I'm not saying I don't believe you, Ms. Miller. I'm saying a jury might not. Jennifer grabbed my hand. There has to be something else. Some evidence he couldn't have anticipated or manipulated. I thought about Grandma Rose's final video, her clear voice explaining Marcus's crimes. But even that could be dismissed if Stern convinced people she'd been confused, manipulated by her supposedly unstable granddaughter. What if we could prove he's done this before? I said suddenly. Not just the Portland case, but other victims we haven't found yet. DA Walsh raised an eyebrow. What are you thinking? His dating profile. Jennifer found him on Elite Connect, right? It's a platform specifically for wealthy professionals. I pulled out my phone and started typing. What if Rebecca and Amanda weren't random targets? What if there's a pattern, successful women with family money, all meeting him the same way? Rivera leaned forward. That's actually brilliant. If we can prove he was specifically targeting wealthy women through dating apps. It establishes predatory intent, Walsh finished. Premeditation. That would counter the narrative about family disputes and mental health crises. My phone rang before I could continue the thought. Unknown number again, but this time when I answered, the voice wasn't Marcus. Is this Sarah Miller? My name is Dr. Patricia Kim. I'm a psychiatrist at UCSF, and I believe your brother may have targeted one of my patients. The room went dead silent as I put the call on speaker. Dr. Kim, can you explain what you mean? I have a patient. I can't give her name due to confidentiality, but she came to me 6 months ago after discovering her fiancé had been systematically stealing from her family's medical practice. The description she gave of his methods, his manipulation tactics, even his physical appearance, when I saw the news about Marcus Miller's arrest, I had to call. My heart was racing. Is she willing to testify? She's terrified he'll come after her if she goes public. But she kept everything, emails, bank records, even recordings of their conversations where he admitted to lying about his background. She'd been planning to take it to the police when he suddenly disappeared. Another victim. Another woman Marcus had tried to destroy. Dr. Kim, DA Walsh interrupted. This is District Attorney Patricia Walsh. We need to speak with your patient immediately. I'll reach out to her, but I should warn you, she's not the only one. After seeing the news coverage today, 2 other women have contacted me with similar stories. It appears Mr. Miller has been very busy over the past 5 years. The call ended, and the room erupted in activity. Rivera was already coordinating with other jurisdictions, Walsh was calling her staff to expand the investigation, and Jennifer was furiously typing notes on her phone. But I just sat there, staring out the window at the courthouse steps where Marcus would eventually walk if we couldn't build a bulletproof case. Sarah? Rivera touched my arm. You okay? He's not just a con artist, I said quietly. He's a serial predator. And I'm probably not even his first family member. The thought hit me like lightning. Our cousin Emma in Seattle, who'd mysteriously cut off contact with the family 3 years ago. Uncle Robert's sudden financial troubles that coincided with Marcus's last visit to Portland. Even our parents' retirement account. Had Dad ever actually verified those statements Marcus helped him organize? We need to expand this investigation, I told Walsh. I think Marcus has been practicing on our own family for years before he started targeting strangers. My phone buzzed with another text, this one from a number I didn't recognize. Sarah, this is Emma. Your cousin? I saw the news about Marcus. We need to talk. Tonight. There are things about our family you don't know. The coffee shop in Fremont where I met Emma at 9 p.m. was nearly empty, just a few college students hunched over laptops and the barista counting down minutes until closing. My cousin looked older than her 34 years, with dark circles under her eyes and the kind of tension that came from carrying secrets too long. I should have warned you years ago, she said without preamble, sliding a manila folder across the scratched wooden table. But I was terrified he'd come after me again. Inside were bank statements, emails, and what looked like a police report from Seattle PD dated October 2020. The complaint was filed by Emma Walsh. She'd taken her husband's name, which explained why Marcus hadn't immediately connected us as cousins when he met Jennifer. He conned me out of $67,000, Emma said, her voice barely above a whisper. Told me he was starting an investment firm and needed seed money from family members. Said Uncle Jim and Aunt Carol had already committed $50,000, that you'd invested your college fund. I never invested anything with Marcus. I know that now. But back then, he was so convincing. Had fake documents, forged signatures, even staged phone calls where he pretended to be talking to other investors. Emma pulled out her phone and showed me a photo of a business card, Miller Investment Solutions, Marcus J. Miller, Senior Portfolio Manager. The address listed was a UPS store in downtown Seattle. The phone number went to a Google Voice account Marcus had set up with a professional voicemail greeting. Emma, why didn't you report this to police? I did. That's the police report right there. But Sarah, he didn't just steal money. Her hands were shaking as she reached for her coffee cup. He tried to destroy my marriage. When I figured out the investment company was fake and demanded my money back, he told Kevin that I'd been having an affair. What? He had photos. Fake ones, but they looked real. Pictures of me with some man I'd never seen before, timestamped from days when Kevin was out of town. He'd photoshopped them so perfectly that even I questioned what I was seeing. My stomach turned. The same psychological warfare he'd used on me, on Jennifer, on God knows how many others. Marcus told Kevin he'd discovered the affair while managing my finances, and he was torn between family loyalty and doing the right thing. Made himself look like the reluctant hero exposing uncomfortable truths. Emma wiped her eyes. It took 6 months of marriage counseling and a digital forensics expert to prove the photos were manipulated. But you stayed married. Barely. Kevin still has trust issues. We moved to Oregon last year just to get away from the memories. She leaned forward. Sarah, there's more. I hired a private investigator after the photo incident, just to protect myself in case Marcus escalated further. She pulled out a thick report bound in blue covers. Turns out our dear cousin has been running similar cons across the Pacific Northwest since at least 2015. The PI found 7 potential victims in 3 states, all family members or close friends of family members. I flipped through pages of documented fraud. Marcus had borrowed $23,000 from our great-aunt Helen in Spokane for medical school applications, convinced cousin David in Portland to co-sign a business loan he never intended to repay, and somehow gained access to our elderly Uncle Frank's pension account in Tacoma. Uncle Frank's dementia, I said, pieces clicking together. Marcus visited him every month for 2 years before he passed. Withdrew $400 every week for grocery shopping and medications. Frank's caregiver thought Marcus was being such a devoted nephew. Emma's laugh was bitter. The nursing home administrator told me after the funeral that Frank's account had been drained to almost nothing. My phone was buzzing constantly, texts from Detective Rivera, calls from DA Walsh's office, even a voicemail from one of Dr. Kim's patients who was ready to testify. But sitting across from Emma, seeing the damage Marcus had done to our own family for nearly a decade, I felt something shift inside me. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It wasn't even about justice. This was about stopping a predator who'd been hiding in plain sight, using family connections and fabricated concern to systematically destroy anyone who trusted him. Emma, I need you to testify. Sarah, I can't. You don't understand what he's capable of when he's cornered. What do you mean? She pulled out her phone and showed me a text thread from last December, right around the time Grandma Rose died. Marcus, hey cuz. Heard through the grapevine that Sarah's been asking family members about old loans I supposedly took. Hope you haven't been feeding her paranoid delusions. Emma, I haven't talked to Sarah in months. Marcus, good. Because it would be really unfortunate if Kevin found out about that weekend in Vancouver. The real weekend, not the fake photos. Be a shame if someone sent him the hotel receipts from the Fairmont. Emma's face had gone white. Sarah, I was never in Vancouver. But he had receipts, real ones, with my name, my credit card information, charges for 2 guests in a luxury suite. I don't know how he got them, but they looked completely authentic. More forgeries. Probably. But Kevin wouldn't have known that. And by the time I could prove they were fake, the damage would already be done. Emma closed the folder. So I kept quiet. Let Marcus think he'd won. And I've been terrified every day since that he'd follow through on his threat. My phone rang. Detective Rivera. Sarah, where are you? We've had a break in the case, huge break. But Marcus just posted bail. My blood turned to ice. He posted bail? How? His lawyer argued flight risk was minimal since he was voluntarily returning to face charges. Judge set it at $500,000. Rivera's voice was tight with frustration. Sarah, he made bail in 20 minutes. Someone wired the money from an offshore account we can't trace. Emma grabbed my arm across the table. He's free? Not for long, Rivera continued. Because Dr. Kim's patient wasn't his only victim. We've now got 6 women from 4 different states willing to testify. Bank records showing a pattern of fraud going back to 2015. And Sarah, we found something else in your grandmother's safety deposit box files. What? A life insurance policy Marcus didn't know about. Rose Miller took out a $2 million policy in 2019, with you as the sole beneficiary. The monthly payments came directly from a separate account he never accessed. $2 million. Money that was legally, indisputably mine. Money that would ensure I'd never be financially vulnerable again. There's more. The insurance company requires a police investigation for any death where the beneficiary has filed fraud complaints against family members. They've been quietly building their own case against Marcus for insurance fraud. He tried to claim your grandmother had borrowed against the policy to pay his medical school loans. Emma and I stared at each other across the coffee shop table. Medical school loans for a degree he never earned, she whispered. Detective, where is Marcus now? Unknown. He was released 30 minutes ago and immediately disabled his phone's GPS. But Sarah, we've got units watching your apartment, your parents' house, and Jennifer's place. If he contacts anyone. The coffee shop door chimed, and my heart stopped. Marcus walked in wearing a different suit, his hair perfectly styled, looking for all the world like a successful businessman grabbing an evening latte. He spotted Emma and me immediately, smiled that charming smile that had fooled so many people, and walked over to our table. Well. A family reunion. He pulled out a chair and sat down uninvited. Emma, you look good. Marriage agrees with you. How's Kevin? Stay away from my family, Emma said, but her voice shook. Family. Marcus laughed. Interesting concept. Sarah, I have to hand it to you, this whole investigation has been impressive. Really thorough work. I was already texting Rivera under the table, he's here. Coffee shop on Fremont. Come now. But here's the thing, ladies. Marcus leaned back, completely relaxed. You've been so focused on the past, you missed what's happening in the present. He pulled out his phone and showed us a banking app. Jennifer's parents' restaurant account. The one I supposedly stole from? Well, it turns out I had legitimate power of attorney, signed last week when her father had chest pains and thought he was having a heart attack. My stomach dropped. You're lying. Am I? Check the news, Sarah. Robert Walsh was hospitalized yesterday for cardiac issues. Jennifer asked me to help manage some urgent restaurant payroll while they dealt with the medical crisis. Very reasonable request from a loving daughter. He swiped to another screen. And that life insurance policy Grandma left you? Turns out there's a clause about beneficiaries who file false police reports against family members. The insurance company can void the entire policy. Emma was frantically texting, probably warning Kevin, calling the police, anything to get help. You see, I've spent the last 6 hours making some calls of my own. Detective Rivera is about to discover that her star witness, that's you, Sarah, has a documented history of filing fraudulent insurance claims during her cancer treatment. That's impossible. Marcus smiled. Is it? Remember when you appealed that claim denial in March 2022? The one for the experimental imaging that insurance said wasn't medically necessary? You signed a sworn statement saying Dr. Peterson had recommended it, but his notes say he specifically advised against it. The world tilted. I remembered that appeal. I'd been desperate, terrified the cancer was spreading, willing to try anything. Dr. Peterson had been cautious about the expensive scan, but I thought. I never lied on that form. Well, someone did. And they used your signature, your patient ID number, your social security number. Marcus's eyes glittered. Identity theft is a serious crime, Sarah. Almost as serious as filing false police reports to frame innocent family members. Police sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Marcus heard them too, but he didn't look concerned. The beautiful thing about chaos, he said, standing up and straightening his tie, is that everybody looks guilty. Even the victims. Detective Rivera burst through the coffee shop door with 3 uniformed officers, but Marcus was already walking toward the back exit, hands visible, moving slowly and calmly. Marcus Miller, stop right there. He turned around, still smiling. Detective Rivera. I was just having coffee with my family, discussing how to get Sarah the mental health support she clearly needs. And that's when I realized the truth I was never supposed to find out wasn't about Marcus at all. It was about myself. In that moment, watching Marcus manipulate the situation even as police surrounded him, I understood that I had the power to destroy him completely. Not with evidence or testimony or legal proceedings, but with something much simpler. I pulled out Grandma Rose's digital recorder, the one piece of evidence Marcus didn't know I still had, and pressed play on the final recording. Her voice filled the coffee shop, clear and strong. Marcus, I need you to know that I've been recording all our conversations since 2019. Every lie you've told, every document you've forged, every dollar you've stolen. I've been gathering evidence not because I'm confused or paranoid, but because I'm protecting my family from you. This recording will be my final gift to Sarah, the truth about who you really are. Marcus's face went white as his dead grandmother's voice continued, methodically detailing years of his crimes with dates, amounts, and witnesses. And Marcus, if you're hearing this, it means Sarah found my insurance policy. The real one, not the fake documents you've been using to manipulate her. She deserves to know that I never doubted her strength, her intelligence, or her worth. I only doubted you. Detective Rivera was already reading Marcus's rights, but I wasn't listening anymore. I was thinking about the life insurance money, the inheritance I'd finally receive, the vindication of knowing my grandmother had believed in me all along. The truth I was never supposed to find out wasn't that Marcus was a criminal. It was that I was strong enough to stop him. As the police led Marcus away in handcuffs, he looked back at me one final time. This isn't over, Sarah. But he was wrong. It was.